Hey everyone, my name is Wedge, and welcome back to our Best of the Rest series, where we talk about everything Hour of Devastation. In this episode, we're going to zoom through the rest of the black cards we didn't get to cover individually. This includes previews from last week that we missed. We'll be speaking in terms of limited, commander, and everything in between, so saddle up and let's get down with some Hour of Devastation goodness. Enjoy! Emmet Eternal is 3 mana for a 5/5 zombie crocodile demon great creature type with Afflict 3. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, put a -1/-1 counter on the Emmet. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, remove all -1/-1 counters from it. Well, isn't this just a super huge bomb? Wow, this thing is massive. 3 mana for a 5/5 is already absurd, and if your opponent does manage to cast some spells, they won't be able to kill this in one turn. That's pretty clear, especially early game. And when it attacks, assuming your opponent has something that can block it this early in the game, they still have to take a bolt to the face. If they don't block it, you're looking at a 5/5 all new and shiny again. This does let your opponent choose which option is better for them, but both options suck. They either take a bolt and better have a trick in their hand to trade with this, or they take a crap load of damage. All options are bad. This thing's a super bomb. I love it to pieces. What a good little zombie crocodile dog demon thingy. I'm a big fan. Apocalypse Demon is 4 of anything and 2 black for a demon with flying. Its power and toughness are each equal to the number of cards in your graveyard. At the beginning of your upkeep, tap the demon unless you sacrifice another creature. I mean, geez, this thing is dependent on a lot. It's 6 mana, which is a lot. Its existence is dependent on the cards in your graveyard, and you have to sacrifice a creature or it's tapped each turn. So much upkeep just to keep this demon alive and powerful. At least sacrificing a creature should raise its power and toughness a little bit, but still, that is not sustainable long term, at least most of the time. I don't know, I don't really like this. The art is sick, but beyond that, count me out here. Bane Whip Punisher is 3 mana for a 2/2 human warrior. When it enters the battlefield, you may put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. You can also pay 1 black mana and sacrifice it to destroy target creature that has a -1/-1 counter on it. Well, hello there, delicious removal attached to a body. I enjoyed this card very much. 3 mana for a 2/2 creature that shrinks something, then you get the inevitability of destroying it whenever you want. Oh, I'm so in. Solid removal spell, and you can use the creature until you need to sack it. Great flexibility in design. If I die, it will not be alone. Oh, I love it. Definitely early pick and limited, for sure. Great stuff. Grisly Survivors, 3 mana for a 2/3 Minotaur Warrior. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, the survivor gets +2/+0 until end of turn. I'm trying to like these cycle or discard synergy creatures, but I really can't. I can't. A 2/3 for 3 is an alright filler. If you need a 22nd or 23rd card, this'll do just fine. But unless you have a massive cycling or discard effects, you aren't going to prioritize this. And even if you had a mass of those effects, it's still only +2/+0 each time. No evasion, no trample, no keywords. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but this isn't my favorite type of synergy in the set. I'm just not really liking it that much. Lethal Sting is 3 mana for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast it, put a -1/-1 counter on a creature you control, destroy target creature, and instantly playable. Sure, it shrinks something of yours, but remember, we're still on Amonkhet. We still draft this set with Amonkhet, which means that -1/-1 counter synergy is still a thing. And even if it wasn't, you'd still play this because removal is king and queen and limited, and you want all of it, Lethal Sting included absolutely. Lurching Rot Beast is 4 mana for a 4/2 zombie beast with cycling costing 1 black. I mean, card's fine. Cycling early is good. It's like a mini Desert Celadon. Not an early pick, but decent filler if you need a giant cockroach. Merciless Eternal is 3 mana for a 2/2 zombie cleric with Afflict 2. You can pay 3 mana and discard a card to give the Eternal +2/+2 until end of turn. I like the design here. 3 mana for a 2/2 with Afflict 2 is already pretty alright. They take a shock to block it, I'm okay with that. That discard ability though, that's interesting. Forces your opponent to consider blocking instead of just letting 2 through like they normally might, and it's decent discard synergy for the discard matters cards in the set. Assume you have Eternalize or Embalm shenanigans to work with here, card's okay. Much better in decks that synergize with its activated ability. Not first pickable in my eyes, but it's relatively decent. Moaning Wall, sufficiently creepy, is 3 mana for a 0/5 zombie wall with Defender and cycling costing 2 mana. I mean, this card is real scary flavor-wise, but playability, I've never been a fan of walls in limited play, but this does have cycling, I don't know. I would only sideboard this in against outrageously aggressive decks where a 5 toughness dead person wall would actually come in handy. Besides that, and even in that exact situation, I'd still probably pass on it. Razakat's Right is 3 of anything and 2 black for a sorcery with cycling costing 1 black. Search your library for a card and put that card into your hand, then shuffle your library. Well, alright, looks like we have a tutor up in here. This gets much better when it's in a draft deck with a super bomb that you opened previously. Cycling for 1 mana is nice flexibility for when this is in your opening hand and you can't afford the dead weight. At the end of the day, this has to justify its existence by the best stuff it can grab. You have to look at it that way. If you have Nicol Bolas in your deck and you can cast it, the right might not be so bad. But if you have a bunch of decent cards with nothing really over the top, don't get this anywhere near your deck. Ruin Rat is 2 mana for a 1/1 rat with Death Touch, and when it dies, exile target card from an opponent's graveyard. All I needed to see was Death Touch. I'll play this in literally every black limited deck until the end of time. Death Touch forces your opponent to do one of two things. It forces them to trade something much more important for the rat, or it forces a combat trick out of them to kill the rat to avoid Death Touch. Either way, I don't care, the rat did its job. Death Touch 2 drops are the most annoying thing to ever happen to anyone ever. Now obviously no one is picking this first or anything, but just Death Touch is difficult to deal with, especially on a creature you don't want to spend resources destroying, I'm just saying. Scrounger of Souls is 5 mana for a 3/4 horror with lifelink that kinda looks like Slender Man, just like Grimstrider, at least to me. We've seen cards like this in other colors, the last one being a Paladin from Eldritch Moon, and I'm not saying that this card's unplayable, because it isn't, but don't get tricked by thinking lifelink is better than it is. It's a decent mechanic, but it isn't a keyword that helps you in combat. So a 5 mana 3/4 is still a 5 mana 3/4, no first strike, flying, none of that. The card's alright as a filler, but don't prioritize it too much. It isn't as good as you might think at first glance, kind of a trap. Vile Manifestation is 2 mana for a 0/4 horror with cycling costing 2 mana. It gets +1/+0 for each card with cycling in your graveyard. Now this is a design I can get behind. Super weird design, but I like it. It can come down early as a wall if you need it, and then gradually grow throughout the game if you have cycling cards to feed to it. If you don't, I probably wouldn't include this, but if you do, it becomes very attractive. Cycling itself is nice if you have nothing in the yard to make it big when you draw it. That's good flexibility there, but yeah, I wouldn't run this without a significant cycling sub-theme. More camels! Come on. Wretched Camel is 2 mana for a 2/1 zombie camel. When it dies, if you control the desert or there is a desert card in your graveyard, target player discards a card. I mean, this is much closer to this piece of feces than the white camel we looked at yesterday, and that's all I really have to say about that. Stupid camels. Zombie camels, though, just die already and stay dead. It's unbelievable. Without Weakness is 2 mana for an instant with cycling costing 2 mana. Target creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn. Jeez, how many times are we going to get 2 mana instant speed black combat tricks like this? The cycling is a nice addition for when we don't need it, but 2 mana feels like more than I want to spend on this. Even with the cycling as increased flexibility, gonna pass on this unless you're in a deck that just needs every single cycling card you have. Anything but that, definitely not. Based on what we've seen here, I think black is looking okay. I will say that I don't think it's putting up its best performance in the past year. We've looked at white and blue so far, and there are a few standout cards in those colors that I don't think black has necessarily stood up to. But we'll be testing limited all week and all next week to figure out where the power is. While we're doing that, what do you think? How do you feel black stacks up to white and blue? We still have a few colors to go, so be sure to let me know what you think and stay tuned for the rest of the series coming at you real soon, including the pre-release guide that'll tell you everything you need to know about Hour of Devastation pre-release. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. This video is brought to you in part by TCGplayer.com. Look, people, we're closing in on Hour of Devastation release, and we're still under $90 each for boxes of Hour of Devastation. $88! $88, come on! When was the last time a set was this cheap before release? If you don't have a local game store or yours is trying to charge you bricks of gold, we got your back. Just click the link on the screen. Helps the channel. We all win. Enjoy.
What?